Hello, my name is Jonathan Jones, and I am the board chair for the American Alliance for Theater and Education, and I am very excited to invite you to share your work at the AATE National Conference in Grenville, South Carolina, July 29th till August 1st in 2026. One of the things that we're doing this year, which is new for us, is to hopefully invite everyone who is a participant at this conference to share your work as a presenter. Now, for some of you, you might think, look, I'm interested in going to a conference, but I really just want to absorb and see what other people are doing, let the professionals do their thing in terms of presenting. And I want you to know that that is not our intention ever at AATE, and certainly not at this conference in particular. So whether this is your first year teaching, whether you are still a college or university student, whether you've been teaching for 20 years but you don't normally do presentations, or maybe you've done many presentations at conferences and you want to just take a load off and do something a little simpler, all of those possibilities are really encouraged for this particular conference this summer. So what we've tried to do is to offer a variety of different types of presentations depending on what you feel prepared for and really welcomed to do. And I hope that you'll sort of review these opportunities and consider submitting a proposal. So the first short opportunity that we offer for folks is to do a short form workshop. Now, all of our concurrent sessions at the conference are always 75 minutes long. And normally, like, one person might do a whole thing for 75 minutes, or they might work with a colleague or whoever that they decide to sort of break up the time amongst themselves. And so in this short form opportunity, the idea is that you only need to be responsible for 30 minutes. So if you've done something exciting and engaging with your students or with your community organization that you think would be worthwhile and valuable to give other folks at the conference an opportunity to participate in, just to see what that was like or what your take was on that work, then this format is for you. And so what you could do is to submit a proposal for your 30 minutes. You'd give a title for what that's going to be, and you'd sort of give a description of what you imagine that you'll use those 30 minutes for, and that's all that you need to submit. And so then if your proposal is accepted, then you're just responsible for your own 30 minutes. Now, of course, the way that we'll schedule this at the conference is that there'll be 2 of these short form workshops happening together in one session. So you'd present for your 30 minutes, then the other person would present for their 30 minutes. And because the session is 75 minutes long, then that would leave 15 minutes for discussion with the audience to talk with you all about your work and your experience of it and how they can then apply that when they're back in their own context. Now, you could either submit a proposal just for your 30 minutes, or you and a friend, you might submit your proposal together, and each of you talk about what you're going to do with your 30 minutes of time. And that's what would happen in a short form workshop. Now, the next way that you could do sort of a short form sharing at the conference is with what we call a paper or a narrative. Now, for those of you who've been to like a college or university style scholarly conference, this would be very familiar to you because people make presentations like this in those settings all the time. But for folks who are used to doing things that are more like teacher professional development and the like, this might be a little bit new and different for you. And so what we do in a paper or narrative presentation is that you only have 20 minutes. And in your 20 minutes, you might talk the people through a particular unit of study that you did, or something that happened in terms of like your audition process for a show that you've got the folks engaged in, or some new warm-up that you've been working on and working through with your population and how that's gone, how you developed it, what it was based on, and how it's influenced and impacted your work this year, that kind of thing. So something that's more short in scale. Now, of course, it could be that you've done something that is more akin to research, and so you might want to present that in this format. But that's sort of up to you, and it really is meant to be a little bit ambiguous in describing the scope of what's possible, because we want to allow you to really investigate your own work and present it in a way that makes sense to you. That we're calling this a paper or a narrative. Of course, you could write this up like a research paper, and if you have training in that area and you know how to do that kind of thing, then you could. And if you wanted to use your 20 minutes to stand in front of the people and read that to them, you could. We don't usually do that kind of thing in theater because normally we just want to talk and communicate with the people and we don't need to read out loud to them. But you could do it that way if you wanted to. What most folks tend to do is that they prepare some kind of like PowerPoint to sort of talk through like the main points of what they want to highlight, and then they just really give a narrative presentation during the time. In this situation, again, you could present something on your own, just what you want to do with your 20 minutes, whether you're characterizing that as a paper or a narrative, kind of doesn't matter so much. Really, the content of what you want to present and what you want to talk about is more important. And then on the back end, we would look at all of the proposals that come in and we'd situate like which of those papers or narratives sort of belong together or would be good to have in conversation together, and then we would schedule them. Or if you and two colleagues, so that there's 3 of you in total, want to each sort of come together as a collaboration and submit one proposal where each of you is talking about like how your part of it is going to be different and unique and what your piece is that you'll contribute, but that the 3 of you submit the whole thing together so that you make sure that when you're doing the presentation, you'll be scheduled together. That's how you could approach submitting for this. Okay. The last of these shorter opportunities is actually not something that's new or unique to our conference, but it is something that is sometimes surprising or unique and different for people working in theater, which is to give a poster presentation at a conference. And usually the way that this goes is that people prepare usually it is something physical that they bring into the room, some kind of poster that's going to show some project, program, could be a piece of research. It depends on what your work is like and what it is that you want to present. Images, statistics, whatever, some narrative, however you like, that gives an overview of the experience that you had with your population. And so you put that together on a poster. And what you need to prepare for in terms of presentation is that you would have 5 minutes, only 5 minutes. So that ideally everybody who's prepared a poster, all of the posters are hung in one large room. We go around the room and each person gives their 5-minute spiel for what their project was like. We hear from everybody who's presenting, which usually is not that many people. So let's say it's 5 posters or something. So we've got 25 minutes of presentation that happen. And then for everybody who's there as audience, after we've heard all of those presentations, we then invite the audience to just go and talk to the people about their work. And so the audience then sort of breaks up into groups. It's very informal and just sort of move around, or maybe they just speak to only one person if that's what their interest is. However it happens, and it's more just really an informal conversation about the work. Very low stakes in terms of presentation because it's so short. In some ways that might be very intimidating because you don't have a lot of time and you can't say very much. But it's just to give people a sense of like what you did overall. Perhaps not too different from what you would submit as an abstract for your proposal if you were going to intend to present in this way. And then just wherever the dialogue goes with the people, that's it. It tends to be supportive and people are curious and interested in how things went and why you decided to do what you did. And again, considering how they might apply that in their own context when they go back home after the conference. But it's fun. It's fun. Okay, the last bit of information I want to share with you is how to submit a proposal. Because here, of course, like, okay, I have an idea of something I want to share, but like, what's this submission process like? What's it going to be? Particularly being mindful of the fact that we have a short amount of time between when you might be viewing this video and when the proposals are going to be due, which is a very quick turnaround. So just in terms of the proposal is that you're going to need to give us sort of your name and contact information, very simple. You will need to give a short biographical statement, who you are, written in third person, like we're putting something in a program, because that's exactly what we're doing. And so that's meant to be short just to give people some sense of context where you're coming from before they arrive in your session. You need to give some kind of title for your session. So whether you're doing a short form presentation or you're doing more the longer form traditional presentation for 75 minutes, either way, you got to have a title for what it is that you're doing. And then you need a description for that. And so the description is meant to be 300 words or less. So it's short, just to sort of talk us through what you're intending to do. You have the opportunity to upload an additional document, like if you wanted to give like a whole kind of lesson plan or workshop overview that is more detailed than that, and that's fine to upload that as an attachment, but it's not required. Then, after you've submitted that information, you have to identify a network that your work is tied to. Now, if you're not familiar with the American Alliance for Theater and Education, you're like, a network, what the heck is that? What that's about? Well, it's who is the intended audience that you want this piece in front of. Because our work at the American Alliance for Theater Education is quite broad. So we speak to different populations. We got different people who are going to turn up at the conference. And so who, like, in what area do you work in the field, but also who do you intend to present this to? And so that could be for applied theater, so folks who are doing community engaged work. That could be for college and university audience, whether that's professors, students, administrators, however. Could be for early childhood, so people who work with the very young. Could be for high school teachers, could be through pre-K through 8 teachers, could be for playwrights, people who work in professional theater or theater for young audiences, people who work in youth theater. So those are all the different sort of networks that we have. And so research and scholarship is the last one that I've left out, of course. Critical, because that's the one that I'm the chair of. But anyway, you identify which of those networks you feel like is best suited for your work. And you can also identify multiple networks, in which case then you would identify several of them. So there's 2 remaining things that you have to submit with the proposal that are important to attend to as well. One of them is to identify how the work that you are intending to present is going to connect to the American Alliance for Theater and Education's diversity, mission, and core value statements. So you can review those materials on our website if that's helpful. That's always how I do my proposals. I kind of copy and paste the mission statement for AATE, and then I take a little moment to sort of think through how this work that I'm intending to do really speaks to those different points in the mission statement for AATE, and I just sort of write that out. If you wanted to do that in advance, so then you can just copy and paste into the form, that can be easier to do as well. But just having an awareness of that being one of the questions that's asked of you in the proposal form. And the way that we think about this is to sort of think about why this work now, just in terms of sharing this with a national audience, because really that's what this conference is for. And then the last piece that you have to respond to are, what accessibility needs do you have? So depending on sort of you as a presenter, but also as a conference attendee, like what are the things that are going to be necessary for you to give this presentation? In closing, this conference is called Echoes of Us, Theater that Reflects, Resonates, and Revives. I want you to use that title to imagine what are the aspects of my work that resonate with that title. And whatever that you decide, make a list, people, make a list. That's what we can do. Then decide, oh, I could share that. Oh, I could share this. Don't be so judgmental at this stage, because honestly, as I said, our intention is that everybody who is there will have something to share and contribute. And look, here's the deal. Even if you don't submit a proposal, if you're still going to join us for the conference, given that so much of what we do is dialogic, so much of what we do is participatory, like, you're going to be sharing your work one way or another. But really, we want to allow everybody to have their moment on the stage. And so allowing these different presentation types is really a way of making that possible, but also me sharing this video with you right now as an invitation. If you are receiving this, it is because you are a member of our field and we want to see you in South Carolina. So I look forward to the proposals that you submit. As the board chair, it's not my responsibility to review all of the proposals, and I won't be, I promise you. But when I do actually see what is accepted for the conference, and I see what is going to be on the schedule, it just makes me so excited. So I look forward to seeing y'all in South Carolina, and until then, take care.